Roundtable Sports is throwing two huge events this 2024 NFL season. Come join me, Richie from Jets Media, TD Finns Talk, Dan Mitchell, and Patriots Global for an unforgettable game day experience. Week 6, Monday Night Football, Bills vs. Jets at MetLife Stadium. Your ticket comes with an all-inclusive tailgate party hosted by Gotham City Crew, food, drinks, live DJ, and more. Also, come witness the AFC East Roundtable live in-person show from the tailgate. And last but not least, you will get access to the MetLife Stadium's turf for the pregame and witness the national anthem before primetime football kicks off. Our second event this year is going to be in Miami for the first time. Week 14, New York Jets versus the Miami Dolphins. We locked down our own private corner terrace at Hard Rock Stadium, exclusive for our group. Saturday night, join us at Miller's Ale House for an awesome meet and greet. Jake Asman will be a special guest for this event. Email us at afceastroundtable@gmail.com for more information on how to secure your tickets. We are live here on the AFC East Roundtable YouTube channel, the Jets Roundtable, brought to you, empowered by BetUS Sportsbook. Receive your 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and 125% bonus on your next two by using promo code YouTube150. Now, I'm excited to share some odds on BetUS because there is a specific team that is a favorite to land a specific wide receiver, Matt O'Leary, that we will be talking about a lot in this show. Matt, welcome back to the Jets Roundtable, brother. How you doing, man?
Excited to be here, putting the ugly loss behind us now and transitioning to Davante Adams rumors and hopefully a bounce-back game against the Minnesota Vikings this week.
Yeah, you know, Matt and I were both in attendance on that game at MetLife Stadium. It was rainy, it was wet, it was cold, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun, but luckily, it's a new day. It's a new game to look forward to, and there's a lot of things that we got to talk about regarding this Davante Adams situation. So shout out to everybody that's tuning in. Don't forget to smash a like button on your way into the show. We appreciate you guys all coming on in. So let's just get straight into business and talk about the latest news that we're hearing. Obviously, we found out yesterday that Davante Adams has officially requested a trade from the Las Vegas Raiders. We're getting more information as the moments goes on that there's a lot of teams interested. The Pittsburgh Steelers are interested. The Commanders may be a fit. I mean, the Saints are on Davante Adams' list. But according to Diana Rossini, the latest report says as follows. My biggest takeaway from conversations with teams around the league, many involved or have checked in believe the Jets are the team that will get this trade done. All right? I have been talking about this not just for this offseason, but even last offseason. So it seems like it's going to happen, Matt. What's your thoughts? What's your level of optimism of the Jets actually landing Davante Adams?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a long list of teams that I think are going to be in on Davante Adams. Obviously, a division rival and another member here on the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills, I'm sure would be very interested. I know the Chiefs have been brought up, but I just don't see them trading him in the division. But the connection with Aaron Rodgers is real in this one. The Jets have been interested in this dating back to the trade deadline the last year and even last offseason too, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it makes a lot of sense for both Davante Adams and from the Jet side of things. I think they would greatly benefit from having a guy like Davante Adams in this offense, and you know, pushing their chips to the table and trying to go for it offensively is definitely something that I'm a fan of for them trying to do here.
Yeah, I think it just makes way too much sense. I think a lot of people think that this is something that would actually hurt Garrett Wilson. I happen to disagree with that. What do you think the addition of Davante Adams would do for a guy like Garrett Wilson, who obviously has not yet gotten the same page with Aaron Rodgers, not putting up the numbers we expected from him early on in his career with Aaron Rodgers? Like, he is getting utilized as the number one receiver, which means the defenses are zeroing in on him being the number one receiver. Their best corners following him. They're double teaming him, and that's opening up one-on-ones for Mike Williams, who's coming off his best game as a Jet against Denver, opening up one-on-ones for Lazard, who's taking advantage of it. So the addition, hypothetically, of Adams, how does that impact Garrett Wilson? Do you think that he is going to be able to get utilized more? Does this hurt his progression in this offense, or what do you think?
I don't think it hurts him at all. I think it would be a great benefit for him, actually. And while he would probably go to more of a wide receiver 2 role this year, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't necessarily think you need these defined roles. Like, oh, this is our wide receiver 1. This is our wide receiver 3, you know, and so on and so forth. And I know you're a little bit younger than me, but in 2008, the Jets brought in Ty Law. I don't know if you remember that, but and I thought he really did a good job of helping along Darrelle Revis in his career. And then the next season, Darrelle Revis has maybe the best corner season of all time. So I'm always in on bringing in a veteran to try to help a younger player along. I think it's super important when you have a young quarterback to have a veteran who started in this league before, and to have him either sit behind the rookie and help the rookie along, or you have the rookie sit behind him. But, whatever the case may be in this Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson spot, like Aaron Rodgers himself has drew comparisons from Garrett Wilson to Davante, and Davante is still a very productive wide receiver in this league. So having him in the building and having him in that wide receiver room, I think only benefits Garrett Wilson long-term. Like, yeah, maybe he doesn't have, a 1,300-yard receiving season this year because Davante Adams becomes more of the focal point, but I think it only helps him long-term in his, development, as he's still only 24 years old and a growing player.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the more weapons for Rodgers, the better. And you got to also look at it from this perspective, Jets fans. Like, we have a window, and the window is right now to win. This is no longer a team that's developing for the future. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. We've been developing for the future, and today is that future. Meaning, all those years of developing these young players comes to this season and the next season, hopefully, with Aaron Rodgers under center. A lot of people are saying, yeah, well, why would we trade for somebody who's old and 31 years old? I mean, last I checked, 31 in the NFL is not that old. He's still a superstar wide receiver, in my opinion, and he has the chemistry. He has the, ability to come in here and help the offense, right? I mean, what did we see against that Broncos team, Matt? The offense may not be on the same page as much as we would hope at this point of the season. We have miscommunications. We have the cadence being an issue. We have wide receivers running wrong routes. Like, those are things that I honestly expected to happen early on in the season, that the only way this offense really flows and starts to execute things at a high level is if everybody gets on Aaron Rodgers' page, and that's what we're waiting for. And the addition, hypothetically, of Davante Adams would help that out. If there's anybody that knows Rodgers more than anybody, it's Adams. We have Lazard to be that guy right now, and you see a little taste of the chemistry. Like, wow, Lazard really looks good with Aaron Rodgers. Can you imagine it with Adams? It's like triple times, quadruple the amount of talent you can imagine with the addition of Rodgers and Davante. So what do you think the compensation would look like? We saw a report from Schefter that the Raiders are looking for, a second-round pick plus additional stuff. Do you think Hassan Reddick is going to be included in this trade potentially? Is it going to be a second and a third? Is there going to be conditional? Like, what's your, perfect scenario for the Jets? What do you think the compensation is going to look like to get this deal done? Because the one thing that we do know, Matt, is there's a lot of teams out there that are going to be aggressive for Davante Adams. We're not alone.
Yeah, definitely not alone. You're right. And I understand from the Jet side, like, clearly it hasn't worked out with Hassan Reddick and maybe wanting to move on, but I don't know why the Raiders would take on that headache. Maybe they just really want an edge rusher and they're willing to sign him. And I'm who knows, maybe I'm wrong and the Jets would be able to offload Hassan Reddick. I just don't see him having any trade value. And I don't think that's the route that they go. I know the Raiders asked for a 2+. I'd be surprised if that's what they got, honestly. I think if you look at what Keenan Allen was traded for in the offseason, he didn't go for nearly as much. Now, I think Davante Adams, is a better player than Keenan Allen, and that's no disrespect to Keenan, who's great, had a long career, and been a good player for a long time. But I'm thinking a couple mid-round picks, so like a third and a conditional fourth, something like that. Maybe a player has to get tossed in too. I would be surprised. I know Jet fans have brought up Malachi Corley's name a ton. I don't think they would trade a rookie just after 4 games and into his NFL career. I will say though, like, if there's a line in the sand and it's like, we're not taking anything less than a second rounder is not stopping me from making this trade. I'm just saying, like, I don't think that's what it ends up taking. I think that's the initial, like, hey, we're going to start here. And then the other teams are going to like counter offer, and it settles somewhere around a third rounder plus for Davante.
And when do you think the timeline is for this? Can this get happen tonight, tomorrow, Friday? Do we have to wait till next week? Do we have to wait until the trade deadline? Because all the reports are saying the Raiders are in no rush, but the Davante wants out as soon as possible. I mean, if I'm the Jets, bro, I get this done by Friday. I think that's what I'm looking at. Like, The Jets have been aggressive for Davante since Rodgers walked in the building. I know for certain that the Jets were aggressive in their pursuit of Davante Adams even before the season started last year. Like before Rodgers got hurt, Matt, I know that the Jets were already turning over the stone of we're going to go after Davante at some point this season. And then Rodgers went down. And then they still figured out a way, okay, let's try to trade for him, because if we trade for him now, maybe we can survive this season with Zach Wilson. And then next year, Davante's under contract when Rodgers is healthy. Did not happen because of the obvious reasons. The Vegas did not want to give up on Adams. Now, that's not the case. So the Jets have been in on this. And another thing we have to remember, Joe Douglas traded out of this past year's draft class to get an additional third-round pick. That is an additional pick that the Jets can utilize, whether it's we can now feel more comfortable giving up a second because we have an additional third, or that third is packaged in there. So what do you think the timeline of this, and how aggressive do you think Joe Douglas is going to be?
I do think he's going to be aggressive. I know in the past it feels like Joe Douglas has his price and isn't really willing to bend off of that. But when you look at this scenario, like the Jets are 2-2. Yes, they are still very much so in the mix in the AFC. There's a lot of teams sitting around the 500 right now in the conference. If the season ended today, the Jets would be the 5 seed. Like we know where the Jets stand. But I think both, not only Saleh, but also Joe Douglas feels pressure to win, because for him, it's his 6th year. I understand that he's done a lot well for this franchise. I'm not saying I'm not going to sit up here and say fire Joe Douglas, he's awful. I think he's been pretty good. But at the same time, do you get a 7th year if you haven't made the playoffs in any of your 6 seasons? That is such a long leash. And I think the patience is running thin from ownership and the fan base. And, rightfully so. It's year 4 for Saleh, it's year 6 for Joe Douglas, and they're in the midst of a 14-year playoff drought. Just do whatever you possibly can to make this team as good as possible. Could they use another defensive lineman? Could they use, insert another position here, maybe instead of a wide receiver right now? I guess you could make that argument, but adding Davante Adams does not make the Jets worse. It makes their offense better. And the problem this past week was their offense, and the defense now for 3 games in a row has allowed 17 points or less. So this is something that they've been, really checking in on for over a year. I'd be surprised if this doesn't happen soon. I know that they're focusing on, they're making a trip overseas and playing in London this week, but it kind of feels to me like this could just kind of unfold rather quickly here.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Who's got to prepare for the Vikings? The coaching staff, the players. The front office doesn't. You know what I mean? Is Joe Douglas figuring out a way to beat the Vikings? That's not his job. His job is personnel. And another thing about Joe Douglas, Matt, that I think Jets fans need a little reminder is that, correct me if I'm wrong, this is his final year under contract.
For who is that? I'm sorry.
Joe Douglas.
Joe Douglas, yes.
Exactly. He's not extended. Therefore, if I'm in my last year under contract as a general manager, I got to prove to owners that I need to be extended. And if I'm Joe Douglas, I'm doing everything in my power to bring in Davante Adams, because he knows for damn well that if they don't make the playoffs, he is not going to get extended. So there should be a sense of urgency. And as of right now, I can say with a straight face that if I had to pick one person over the other of who I trust more over Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, it's definitely Douglas, because I don't think this is a personnel issue with this Jets football team. I think it's a lack of coaching and a lack of discipline. But at the end of the day, you got to make the playoffs if you're a GM, especially if you're going into as many seasons as you have. What's your thoughts of the coach? Because we heard from Robert Saleh today. He had some interesting comments. I know you just made a video about it. So why don't you just kind of give your thoughts about what Saleh had to say today about the whole penalties and the whole cadence and the whole Rodgers situation, about what we heard from Coach today?
Yeah, my patience with Robert Saleh, Richie, are really wearing thin. And my stance has been for a while, I want to see him with a legitimate quarterback before we make any rash decisions. I know last year, I don't think he did a great job, but again, they were dealing with one of the worst quarterback rooms, if not the worst quarterback room in the NFL. So I was okay with the Jets giving him this year. And just how everything unfolded in week 4 is just really rubbed me the wrong way, because they had 10 days to prepare for this Denver Broncos game. They were at home. They didn't travel. They played a home game the week prior. They were 8-point favorites at home, and then they just were unprepared and undisciplined. And then today in his press conference, he's essentially says, we're not going to change anything. We're, just going to keep going about our business. This game was an outlier. And yeah, this was definitely the time that they were penalized the most 13 accepted penalties. They were penalized 7 times against Tennessee. And last year they were the most penalized team in the league. So to me, that sounds like really tone deaf for him to come out and be like, oh, this was such an outlier game for us. When in reality, like last year, they were the most penalized team in the sport. So I think he's really downplaying this issue and putting any of the blame on Aaron Rodgers for his cadence, which is something that he's done in this league for so long. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going to side with the guy who's going to the Hall of Fame one day, not the coach who hasn't accomplished anything yet. So I haven't really cared for his answers. I don't think he's doing a great job. And my patience is wearing very, very thin right now.
Now I have a question. I don't want this to come out here like I'm defending Saleh. I'm just quoting our quarterback. Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, and he was asked about this, and I don't know if you heard it, Matt, but he said everyone in the media is blaming the coaching staff and blaming the coaches that they got to be more disciplined. He says, I blame the players. The players got to execute. The players are the ones that's going off sides. The players are the ones that did false start. So what is your thoughts of Aaron Rodgers backing Coach Saleh and putting more of the blame on the players and their lack of discipline rather than the coaching staff? And because I thought that was very interesting from Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he's not going to go out there publicly and blame the coach. I don't expect him to do that. But what's your thoughts of Aaron kind of defending Saleh and putting more of the blame on the overall players in that instance?
Yeah, the players definitely, shoulder some of the blame as well. I don't want it to come across like I'm not putting any of the blame on the players here. And I agree with what you just said. Like, I don't think we're going to ever see Aaron Rodgers come out and say something against Robert Saleh in that way. Although he, in the post-game press conference, he had those, comments with the cadence and kind of said like, oh, that's one way to do it. Meaning when Saleh mentioned not doing it, he's like, or you could hold guys accountable. So I think the holding guys accountable line was really more of not like a shot or a dig. Like, I don't know what the right word is to use, but more of like his pushback, I guess, on how Saleh was going about it. So, he's right. But at the same time, like if this is an issue that's happening year over year, and the players on the roster have changed. Like there was a quote from Saleh after his 3rd game in 2021, where he's talking about like dumb penalties really hurting this team. And it's still an issue 3 years later. Like the roster's turned over a lot since 2021. So while yes, the players are a part of it, like eventually if the same issues keep happening over and over and over again, not just in the NFL, but like in any life circumstance, the leadership is going to get questioned and blamed at some point.
Yeah, and I think the only reason why I may be looking at the false starts as an outlier is because this was not an issue in the first 3 games. We had 1 false start in 3 games, and then we had 5 false starts in 1 game. So I'm hopeful, Matt, that it was a weird, rainy day, cold. The defense of the Broncos was intimidating, and the offensive line just completely forgot how to handle the cadence, because it has been an issue in training camp, wasn't an issue in preseason, wasn't an issue in the first 3 weeks. Like, we had 1 false start. So, I'm hopeful that it is an outlier just from the false starts, because the other penalties are another thing, right? The undisciplined stuff on special teams with Irvin Charles is unacceptable. The defensive penalties going off sides, Lazard pointing first down, which I still don't understand that one. I get it, but I'm hopeful that the false starts in general was an outlier, because that was not an issue in the first 3 weeks. It really wasn't. So let's hope that is the one outlier that we're talking about, because the cadence from Aaron Rodgers is a weapon, and we got to utilize it. And if the offensive line is getting tricked by Aaron Rodgers' cadence, then we'll never be able to utilize it as an actual weapon, because we're supposed to be tricking the defense, not the offense. We saw it work in week 1 when we draw a defender off sides, and then Rodgers hit a touchdown to Lazard down the seam. Like, that is what it's about. So let's hope that is not something that continues to spiral into an issue of this false starts.
Yeah, I hope you're right, Richie. I really do, because that just makes me feel a lot better. Like if it snaps and they just get this thing on track and false starts aren't an issue. But it's so interesting, and you pointed it out, which is honestly the truth. They practice this since training camp, the cadence, like that's something that they start working on in OTAs and all that stuff. And like, it's not like this just came out of the blue. So it was so bizarre, just like how that became an issue in this Denver game and why they weren't able to adjust. And, unfortunately, I will say, I know I spent a lot of time, talking poorly about Robert Saleh right there, but I'm going to blame some players here for a second. Like, I don't think some of the Jets' best players were at their best in this Denver game, and that really hurt them too. On the offensive line, Tyron Smith, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Olu Fashanu. I thought all, 4 of the 5 guys really struggled. I think AVT was the only one who looked okay to me. And then obviously like Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson had maybe 2 of their worst games as pros so far in their Jets tenure. So, like this is also on the players too.
Absolutely. I agree. So now I think it's a perfect time to show the odds because we have someone in the chat saying Jets are not front runners. Insane delusional Jets fan. So let's show this guy exactly why the title of this is the Jets are front runners, because you go to every single betting sports book, Matt. Everyone, not just bet you, every single one. Who's the favorites? Who's the front runners, Matt? Do you see that? Who's in the lead to land Davante Adams? Does that say the Jets?
Yeah, it does say the Jets, and I'm not surprised at all. By the way, minus 175, that's an implied chance if Davante Adams is traded. That's a 64% chance it would be the Jets if he's
so that's saying that the Jets are the front runners. Oh, yeah, well, guys.
And then the next most likely is Chiefs at plus 1,000, which is a 9% chance. So you're going from, what did I say, 64 to 9 as the next one. Now, I'm like, it's not a guarantee. Nothing in this life is guaranteed.
Absolutely.
But there is a reason why the Jets are favorite. And I think like not just Jet fans, like most league pundits are like, yeah, like this makes the most sense. I think the Jets and a handful of teams would be in on it. Maybe like, I know we spoke about Kansas City and why I don't think they're very likely because they're in division. The Bills could be interesting as well. I would really only say the Ravens are the other only realistic team. I think like I would be absolutely floored if it's not one of the top 4 teams. And I would say like the 64% chance that these odds are implying that it's the Jets sounds about right. And then the rest of that, 36% is split between those other 3 teams.
Yeah, and it seems like these odds aren't in order. So I think the next best odds are the Saints at plus 200.
Oh, okay.
And then you have the Steelers at plus 700. So those are the top 3. But the Saints have no cap space. I mean,
I don't think it's going to be the Saints.
The only reason why the Saints are up there is because Davante Adams said he wants to go to the Saints, which is just because of Derek Carr. They can't afford him, so they cancel that out. I mean, the Jets are the clear favorites, all right? So if you guys want to sign up for BetUS, folks, don't forget to take advantage of the 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% in your next 2 deposits, all the way up to $2,000. The number 1 online sportsbook on the face of the planet right here. You even have your own personalized assistant right here who's trying to chat with us. If you have any questions, you got an account manager to come on here and help you out. So shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the Jets Roundtable here on the AFC's Roundtable. Now, we had this report from Diana Rossini. My biggest takeaway from conversations with teams around the league, many involved or have checked in believe the Jets are the team that will get this trade done. Oh, what does that mean? Oh, the Jets are front runners. Oh, but we're delusional, Matt. Now, listen, I'm not saying it's guaranteed. I'm not sitting here saying it's 100% factual, but the reality is the Jets are the front runners. And guess what? Front runners don't always win, right? Even though you're a front runner to win a certain game, you're a favorite, right? The Jets were the favorites to beat the Broncos. We lost. So I'm not sitting here telling you guys it's guaranteed, but the title of this show is a fact. The New York Jets are the front runners to land Davante Adams, all right? And I expect them to do it as being a hopeful Jets fan.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that they accomplish this as well. And this, I don't think, is just like fans getting ahead of themselves here. Like this is like, again, I said it, a lot of league pundits are saying that it makes a lot of sense. If you turned on ESPN yesterday, everyone was saying like the teams that I kept coming up were the Jets, the Ravens, and the Chiefs to me. And then someone mentioned Dallas, but they don't see that one as a very likely landing spot. But yeah, I know we spent a lot of time on this already on this show, but for good reason. I think, sooner rather than later, I would expect the deal to get done.
Let's hope so. Now, I want to get your thoughts of the division, Matt, because we're coming off 0-4. The entire division lost. The Jets lost to the Broncos in an embarrassing fashion. The Patriots lost, okay? And then we have the Bills getting their teeth kicked in by the Ravens, kind of humbled them a little bit. And then we have the Dolphins, who are just complete in disarray right now. What was your thoughts of the state of the AFC East? What was your biggest takeaways about that?
Yeah, so it made me happy and sad at the same time that all the other teams in the division lost. Happy because it was like, all right, well, the Jets didn't lose any ground, and like, I guess, positive spin. We watched, the Bills got their teeth kicked in, the Dolphins looked like garbage, and the Patriots didn't look good either. But then it started to shift back to, wow, what a missed opportunity, because the Jets could have been tied for first at the top of the division with the Buffalo Bills. And Bills have a tough game against Houston coming up. Jets obviously have a tough game against Minnesota, but we know these two teams play right after that. So obviously that matchup's going to be huge in week 6. I'm sure you're excited for the event that you guys are putting together, and I know Dan's coming down for that, the whole thing. But yeah, looking at the state of the division, it's not surprising. And the state of the conference, honestly, it feels like everyone's kind of just in this mushy middle. No one's really ran away with this thing yet, which I guess if you want a positive spin this for the Jets, like, they're not way out of it. In fact, they are currently in a playoff spot. So if they get back on track quickly, then it might end up being okay.
We are in a playoff spot as we speak right now, which is kind of wild. All right, Jets fans, it's not over. I know we got a tough sled of games coming up, which we'll talk about, but at the end of the day, we got it. We got it. Now we have a division game coming up that I want to get your thoughts, because after that Monday Night Football game with the Dolphins, the way they looked, I mean, I don't even know who I have winning that game. I mean, we have the New England Patriots hosting the Miami Dolphins. Like, have you thought about who you're going to take in this game yet?
Yes, I think the Patriots win this game. I don't think the Patriots are the more talented team. I don't know what's going on with Miami right now. They just cannot, and for years now, this not just this year, but for years, they cannot function without Tua. I know that a lot of Dolphins fans are really excited about Tyler Huntley going in, and he might even be better than Tua, I was hearing, but not the case. He stinks. And that whole Dolphins offense, they can't do anything. And the coaching staff doesn't look good. Their defense is still getting beat up, even by, Mason Rudolph and the loaded Tennessee Titans. It's just vibes are really bad in Miami. And I think another ugly slop fest, but like thinking like a 17-13 New England Patriots win. They're the home team too in that game, right? It's the
Patriots, yeah.
Yeah. So again, I think ugly one. Would I be shocked if the Dolphins won? No, but they haven't played well all year. And at least the Patriots have been a little bit competitive this year.
Yeah. I think, like I said, going into that Dolphins-Titans game, like, the Dolphins have a chance to like save their season. They got 2 easy games. They couldn't beat the defeated Titans, okay, who got their starting quarterback injured. And now they're dug themselves in a hole. And now we have the battle of the basement coming up with the Dolphins and the Patriots. So I really don't know how they're going to get out of this. They are going into a bye. Like, if they could win this game against the Patriots, go to 2-3, heal up and get Tua back, maybe go on a run, maybe the Dolphins can save their season. But as of right now, I also saw the Dolphins with Tua to start off the season. I wasn't impressed. I mean, they did not look good against Jacksonville. The 3 quarters he played in against the Buffalo Bills, who, obviously before Tua got hurt, he did not look good. So I don't know if Tua is their saving grace here. I really don't. It seems like there's a big issue, especially when you look at it from the perspective that Mike McDaniel is supposed to be an offensive wizard, and their offense is the issue, right? That's why Jets fans started hitting the panic button after week 1. We're like, wait a second. Our defense is supposed to be good. Is our offense supposed to figure themselves out, okay? That's why we were like freaking out. Now our defense seems to be getting back on track. Jets fans feel a little better about themselves. I know the defense didn't do enough to win that game against Denver, but I'm not going to blame them for giving up 10 points. I look at the offense not scoring a freaking touchdown. That's why we lost that football game. But at the end of the day, this is a very interesting division. So what's your thoughts about that Bills-Texans game? Do you think that the Bills are going to get revenge? Obviously, we saw them go into Baltimore and just get ran all over the place. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens proved to be still a top dog in the AFC conference. Do you expect them to go into Houston and beat the CJ Stroud-led Texans, who are 3-1?
I do. I do think the Bills end up winning that game. I think it's going to be close though, back and forth. Good game, like a 30-27, something like that. Field goal game either way. It was a little bit of a wake up call for Buffalo, and I do think, and we talked about it on the SmackDown show on Monday. I do think that the Ravens were a really bad matchup for this Buffalo Bills team going into that game. And they ran all over them. I don't think Houston's going to be able to run all over them the same way that Derrick Henry and the Ravens were. They're just two stylistically very different teams. And the Texans, they're 3-1, but they haven't looked like all that dominant just yet. I think they are a good team. I don't think they're in the same tier that Buffalo is right now, even though they share the same record. So Buffalo, I do think they go on the road and take care of business here.
Yeah, I think they should. They haven't beaten a good team, and as of right now, they're the Miami Dolphins of last year until proven otherwise. And the way that you can change that narrative is by going into Houston and beating the Texans, who are 3-1, almost lost to the Jaguars, by the way. That was a very close game. Yep. The defeated Jaguars, the only defeated team in the NFL at this point, almost beat the Texans. And I know it's a division game. Things get weird. But at the end of the day, the Buffalo Bills have a chance to go on the road against a team. It's going to be the Stephon Diggs revenge game, maybe. Maybe Diggs feels a little juiced that he wants to kind of have that elite level performance. But see what happens when you don't have a number one receiver. Even though Nico Collins leads the NFL in receiving yards, which is crazy. I knew Nico Collins was good at football, but I did not expect him to have this type of season, to be honest with you. So we shall see. And then you have the New York Jets, right? We're going into London, going up against the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. Undefeated. Sam Darnold, what does he have, 11 touchdowns and 3 picks?
Yeah, Darnold has put up really impressive numbers. I will say the Vikings defense has allowed a lot of passing yards against. So I think the recipe for the Jets in this game would be they're going to have to throw. They're going to have to get the ball out quickly because we know that they're going to try to bring the pressure. But I do think a path to them to win this game, not a guarantee that they win, but a path for them to win this game would be to take advantage of that Vikings pass defense and then get Sam Darnold to turn the ball over, which we know. We've watched a lot of Sam Darnold. He can make a ton of amazing wow throws, and then he'll have one or two, oh my God, I can't believe you just made that throws in a game. And if you capitalize on that and create some turnovers and get extra possessions, I think that would be the path for the Jets to win it.
Yeah, I think what the Minnesota Vikings have done is just phenomenal. And I was on the Vikings train in the offseason when they got Sam. And the reason for that wasn't really just because of my blind belief in Sam Darnold. It was more the pairing of Kevin O'Connell. I really love him. He's probably my favorite coach in the NFL. And what he did with Josh Dobbs last year, I just felt like he's just a great dude, understands the game, and he's putting Sam in a great spot, and Sam is executing. So I think that this is going to be a game that's going to be tough for the Jets because of the coaching matchup. I think he should be the front runner to win Coach of the Year right now, in my opinion, Kevin O'Connell, especially if you can make Sam Darnold become an MVP level talent. And that's what he's doing right now. It's wild. Brian Flores has that defense playing well. I know they give up a lot of passing yards, but they're an opportunistic defense. They're going to blitz. They're going to try to force you into some mistakes. They're going to try to confuse you. So I think this is a bounce-back game for the Jets. I like that we're being counted out in this game. I don't like being favorites because when we're favorites, we don't step up. So hopefully the Jets can go into this game in London and play with a fire lit underneath their butts because they have to. Because if they can escape a W and give the Vikings their first L of the season, that is going to and then we land Davante Adams heading into the freaking Monday night game against the Bills. That's going to spark a lot in this team, man, a lot. And I feel like there's something that needs to change. Like, I don't want to make excuses, man, but Matt, you were in the building. The weather really impacted that game.
It did.
100% impacted that game. No excuse, though. You still got to be able to win in those elements, especially when it's your own elements that you got to deal with as a home team. But I'm hopeful that the elements are not as bad in London. Do you know what the rain forecast is? I thought it was a dome, but I don't think it is a dome. It might rain. I'm nervous because I hate rain games, man. We watched like 5 rain games last year. I can't stand them.
Yeah, it's at Tottenham, which is open. I believe I'm on Google right now.
Yeah.
trying to pull this up. I believe it's open. I hope to God it doesn't rain. I think we've seen enough rain games for the New York Jets. It'd be nice to get like some decent weather there and it not be a factor. Now, that what I was interested in was the level that of the turf or the grass, whatever surface they're playing on. Supposedly Tottenham's the one where the field is actually good. It's the other one, which I don't know. I don't know these soccer stadiums. What's the maybe where Manchester United plays is also where they do it. And that one's not as good. I don't know. Moral of the story, this is the better surface that they're playing on. So that is positive news for the Jets, at least.
I like to hear that. Anything positive around the Jets is something I enjoy. It's something I enjoy. What do you think about the Aaron Rodgers being a little banged up? He definitely got banged up on Sunday by the Denver Broncos. He said that his knee's a little swollen. That concerns me from the perspective of what we saw against the Patriots was exciting because he was moving around, right? He was very mobile. Do you think his mobility is going to be a little different in this game on Sunday? Like, do you think there's going to be a different version of Aaron Rodgers where he's not going to be as comfortable moving around and he's going to have to be that statue? Or do you think that this knee issue is not going to be a problem?
I don't think this is a team anyway, like matchup wise, where he would run around a whole lot. As mentioned, Brian Flores has done a good job with his blitzes and getting the defense home that way. So I think this is a game where the Jets are going to have to do a lot of quick passes and get the ball out fast. Kind of like what we saw against New England. It wasn't like they were pushing the ball crazy far down the field. It was just Rodgers was getting in a rhythm and they were getting the ball out quickly and the pass rush was not getting home. I think that would be the recipe for success in this one. So we'll see if the knee actually does play a factor in this game. It's just swollen. It's not, there's not anything else going on with it right now. It is a story to watch because it is a big deal. I'm not saying like ignore it. It's not an issue, but I don't think this is a game where you would expect Aaron Rodgers to be running around making plays with his legs.
Hennessy with the $2 says, so Miami can't win with a backup quarterback? Two a time. Yeah, I heard a lot of Dolphins fans clown us last year that we couldn't win with a backup. And now they're living what we had to deal with last year. But the difference is your quarterback's coming back. Ours didn't. So we shall see. We shall see. Matt, I got to be honest, man. There's two players on this Jets football team I'm very disappointed in. And that's Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Up until this point, they've not lived up to the stardom that Jets fans have hyped them up to be, including myself for sure. Do you think this is a get-right-back game for them? How do you like the matchup against the Vikings defense? And what is the issue? Like, why is Breece not becoming that dog that we expected him to be? Why is Braylon Allen look better every time he touches the football? Why isn't Garrett Wilson getting the rock? Why are they not on the same page with Rodgers? Like, what have you seen through the first 4 weeks? And are you concerned yet that this is going to be an issue all season long? Or do you think this is going to work itself out?
No, I think both guys are way too talented for me to believe that they're not going to get back on track in some capacity. It is frustrating, though, when your best players in Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall on offense, they don't look like your best players. Ironically, Alan Lazard's look like the Jets' best wide receiver so far, which is crazy. You go from a year ago where he was essentially a non-rosterable wide receiver to actually better than Garrett Wilson through the first 4 games of the year is shocking to me. But Breece Hall, I think what bothers me the most there is he looks indecisive. Like he doesn't just, hit the hole and go. It's like he's trying to find where he wants to get in and can't do it. And the line play specifically this past week clearly wasn't good enough. I understand that, but it's frustrating when those guys can't elevate their games and be the reason why they win games. Through the 2 wins that that hasn't been the case yet. I'm a little bit optimistic that this is the week that we see Garrett Wilson have a better performance. He had some tougher cornerbacks that he was going up against: Patrick Surtain, Christian Gonzalez, against Tennessee. Their corner is the name's escaping me right now for some reason. But moral of the story, matchup wise, this week against Minnesota, I don't think they have a true shutdown, lockdown cornerback one that I'm really super scared of. And if both those guys have a performance, which we know they can, and they're very much so due for, I think that will ease my tensions on it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think that this could be an opportunity for the Jets to go out there and kind of get a W that would make this Jets team feel legit, right? You got to be able to beat the best. And right now the Vikings are, and no one expected this, one of the best teams in the NFL. Maybe they can take what Jordan Love did in the second half against them and kind of utilize that game plan, because obviously the Floors offense with Love, similar to what the Jets are running with Rodgers and Hackett. Obviously, the Vikings got off to a fast start in that game, but then maybe the Vikings just stopped playing tough defense, which allowed the Packers to come all the way back in that game. I'm not too sure, but the Jets just got to come out and start fast and clean up the turnovers, right? See, Garrett Wilson fumbled. Remember, Breece Hall fumbled in the first game. You can't turn the ball over early. That's another issue that we have to make sure is cleaned up. And they also have to make sure they get off the fast starts. A big reason why we dominated the Patriots was because we went out there on the first drive, went all the way down the field, and we got hurt with penalties, so we punted. We get a 3-and-out, and on the second possession, we march down the field, get a touchdown. And then we get the ball back, 3-and-out again, march down the field, get a touchdown. We get a 2-score lead in the first quarter. Like, I really think the formula with any football team, but the Jets in particular, with how their roster is situated, you got to get off to a fast start, because I don't know if I trust this team coming from behind against a Minnesota Vikings defense that is going to send the pressure, right? We can't allow this Vikings defense to get comfortable and start feeling like, oh, we got a lead to protect. Now we can send real, like, zero, because they're going to send a lot of zero pressures, Matt. A lot of zero pressures. And I do trust Rodgers to recognize it. They're also going to bail out of pressures. They check in and out of pressures like nobody else. So, like, I expect Rodgers to not get fooled. But do I got confidence in the Jets' offensive line to not be fooled? The wide receivers to not be fooled? Like, we need all of them to get on Rodgers' page. And as of right now, I don't know if they are.
No, it doesn't feel like they are. And I think that's the end result here. And I saw, I don't know if you saw the clip of Matt Ryan talking about what needs to happen here. But you're right. Like, that they need to get on Rodgers' page. He's the quarterback. He's the leader. And there are too many times in this game, specifically on that final drive, too, where Garrett Wilson doesn't turn around for the ball going up the seam. He didn't really run the route where Rodgers wanted it. And then the back shoulder throw to your 5'8" wide receiver, Xavier Gibson, on 3rd and 10. How that makes any sense, I don't know. But again, like, it's just these little things that are still coming up and being a problem. And the more they play together and the more reps they have, I think the better it will be. And eventually they'll get this thing going. But they need it, like, immediately, because they dug themselves a hole losing a game they're not supposed to. So now you got to win a game that, maybe you weren't supposed to. Maybe it's this week. Maybe it's against, Buffalo coming up. But they got to make up ground somehow.
Yeah, they do, man. And, like, we're in the heart of the season, and the AFC is still wide open. That's the beautiful thing about it. There's nobody running away with it. The Chiefs are the only undefeated team. Then you got the Bills and the Texans at 3-1 and the Steelers at 3-1. Everybody else is 2-2, right? I think that the Jets are in a spot right now to be able to, get some rhythm, and it starts by going into London. And I'm hopeful they can get the job done. I know that we're the underdogs, as we should. How do you think this Jets defense is going to match up against the Sam Darnold-led offense? Because we have to go up against the best wide receiver in football, in my opinion, Justin Jefferson. How do you expect Sauce to match up against him? DJ Reed's coming off a really good game. He's like the only good player, I feel like, that looked good in that Broncos game. How do you think the Jets are going to be able to contain Justin Jefferson? And Aaron Jones is looking really good. Like, that's a high-powered offense that we have to go up against.
Yeah, I think the biggest key for me in this game, it's not necessarily you would think, right, with Justin Jefferson, I'm going to come on now and talk about DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner. I don't think that's where I'm going to go with this. If they're able to get pressure with their defensive line, that to me is going to be the biggest key. If they can't, then I think that's when we see a big Sam Darnold day. That's when we see, Justin Jefferson go for big gains and they put up points in this one. But if the pressure does get home, or whether it's through blitz, whether it's Will McDonald having another big game like he did in week 2 and week 3, whatever the case is, that is when I think you get the turnovers out of Sam Darnold. Even though he's played well so far this year, he hasn't been completely turnover free. He's still throwing the interceptions. He still has fumble problems. And, even the last time the Jets played him when he was in Carolina, they were able to turn him over. So I think if that's the case and they could hold them around 20 points, that is going to be the recipe. They're an explosive offense. They put up over 30 points. It seems like every single week they're doing that. But if they're able to get pressure and create turnovers specifically with that defensive line, I think that's the way for success on defense.
Jets fan from Indy says Jets win 24-21 on Sunday. There we go. Some optimism amongst this Jets fan base. You love to see it. What's your level of optimism, Matt? I know you said last week that you were very optimistic heading into the Jets game. What's your level of optimism in this one? Do you expect, obviously you want to win, but are you going to predict a win?
I think it's going to be really, really close. I'll say I would not be surprised if the Jets won this game. And the reason for that is like the NFL has been so strange this year. Like there's a clear, in my opinion, there's a clear mismatch with the Jets head coach and offensive coordinator versus the Vikings head coach and defensive coordinator. I think the Flores O'Connell duo is significantly better than Saleh Hackett. With that being said, Vikings are 4-0 and they look awesome. Do I think they're going to just rattle off like 9 wins out of the gate and be like a 14-3 team this year? No, I think eventually the losses come and they probably end up finishing around 11-6 and are still really a good team, but eventually they have to lose. And, you know, something that I've said, you know, before the year for the Jets, like this roster is talented enough where they could and should be in every single game that they play. And they were going to have a chance to win every single week because of the talent on the roster. Unfortunately, at the same time, because of the coaching staff, they could also lose any one of these games too. So I don't think that was it 23-20 or 24-21 prediction that we just saw. I don't think it's that crazy. If that ended up being the final score, I wouldn't be surprised.
We need a Greg Zuerlein game winner to make me feel good about him, because right now I'm concerned about Greg the Leg, man. I had no confidence when he went out there to kick that field goal.
No, not from 50. And the Jets played so conservative there too in that last drive. Like it felt like, hey, let's just make it a 50-yarder and Greg will hit it. It's like, well, the ball's been wet all day. He missed a kick last week. He missed a couple in the preseason. Like maybe let's try to get it another 10 yards and make it a 40-yard kick instead of a 50-yard kick. They didn't, and he missed it.
Sad stuff. But it is okay because the Jets move on, and now we're headed to London, baby. So that's the latest news about the Jets-Vikings. We talked about the Davante Adams rumors. The Jets are the clear frontrunners to land him. We shall see if that trade gets done this week, next week, leading up to the deadline, whether he's a Jet or not. He is going to get traded from the Raiders, that's for sure, and he will be a Jet. How about that? That's why I'm wearing this shirt. You see this shirt right now?
17. There you go. You're rocking it for our guy, our future Jet Davante Adams.
That's why I'm wearing this today, baby. Today is the day. Maybe he won't get traded today, but it's a Davante Adams type of day, all right? It's a Davante Adams type of day. That's why I'm wearing this shirt. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Jets Roundtable. We appreciate each and every single one of you guys, as always, tuning in to this show. We like to go live once a week. This show is being powered and brought to you by BetUS. Don't forget to receive your 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your next 2 deposits by using promo code YouTube150. That's promo code YouTube150 to get all those great bonuses all the way on the BetUS Sportsbook. They have all of the odds that you need, all right? Davante Adams is the favorite to land in New York. Matt, any final words before we wrap things up?
Jets traded for Davante Adams this week and upset Minnesota. How about that?
Wow. I mean, if that happens, you are going to see Aiden. We are back in right when you thought that you killed me, Jets. You brought me right back in. Beat the Vikings, trade for Davante, and let's go upset these Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. Salute to the chat. We love you. We'll see you guys tonight on the AFC's Roundtable, and I'll see you in an hour on the Huddle. Peace out, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.